Hello, this is Mark Holmes, the editorial director of Via Satellite, and recently we announced our 10 hottest companies of satellite. This is an eagerly awaited feature. This is the third year that we've done it, and it's actually one of our most read features of the magazine. And we're going to be talking to all of the companies that were highlighted this year as one of the hottest companies. So we have 10 of these Thursday morning conversations to get through. So we're going to be talking today to someone I know well, Tina Ghataore from Mynaric, which was one of the companies that was the 10 hottest companies this year. So before we talk a little about Mynaric, Tina, how have you been? How's life been for you this year?
Been great. I can't complain. It's been a very interesting year, or I should say 18 months, with what's happening around the world. But I've been at Mynaric a year now, so it's been all go. I haven't stopped. So don't let things like COVID, set me down. So just keep moving.
What's this year been like for you in terms of travel? I know you're in the UK at the moment, but have you traveled much? Have you done most of the business remotely, or?
Actually, it's a question I've been asked. I haven't stopped traveling, so both international and domestic in the US. In the US, I'm commuting from the Bay Area down to Southern California to our Hawthorne offices. But I have had to do international travel back to headquarters in Germany, and also, I've done Middle East. I'm in the UK at the moment. I've been on an airplane almost every month internationally, and very comfortable with it. No issues, none.
Excellent. Before we talk a little bit about Mynaric and some of the cool stuff you're doing and the reasons why you're one of our 10 hottest companies this year, I want to talk a little bit about your background, because your background, I was looking at, was more in sort of in-flight connectivity, and that's how, you and I think first started talking to one another. So how did you go from in-flight connectivity to laser communications?
Oh, thank you for asking. It's very interesting. I started my career at the Boeing company and in the satellite world, but always looking at launching service-orientated businesses, connecting people around the globe type of thing, and started my career in the startup program Connection by Boeing, and spent several years working through that, and then moved on to Panasonic to launch a similar service there, which I'm sure if you've flown one of those service equipped aircraft. And just really, where I get the ultimate pleasure is connecting and remaining connected. And so I find myself able to really use space infrastructure, let's call it that, to launch new businesses. So in-flight connectivity is an area I've known well, and Lasercom was actually a couple of decades ago when we were looking at the early LEO satellite systems, and the real capability there and what that could afford in terms of throughput. It was very exciting. So to me, I feel like I've come full circle, launched businesses that are RF orientated, and now I'm in Lasercom in a product world, just adding more capability to connecting people.
So how did the Mynaric opportunity come about? I mean, I'm sort of, just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it was actually about 4 years ago, and I was approached by the team, the board at Mynaric and investors at Mynaric, but I had already committed to Yasat at that time, and they wanted to really capitalize on my experience of taking products and going to market, or services and going to market. And at that time, I'd made a commitment already, and I looked at Lasercom and its adoption, and I thought, is this the right time, or is this still sort of more of a onesie, twosie kind of program? Are you really going to capitalize on my experience to launch the services, or am I just going to be in a leadership role, just incubating a technology? So I wanted to wait a little bit, and I kept in touch with the team there very closely. And then as things were wrapping up, to come back home to the United States from the Middle East, I had conversations with the Mynaric management and board, and they said, we're ready now. We really do want to industrialize these products, and we need your help. So this is how I ended up back home in the United States, and then starting a 1 year now exciting career in lasercom.
Was it? I mean, did you sort of see it as like one of the biggest challenges of your career when you've been Boeing, Panasonic, Yarsats, very diverse portfolio of companies, but this one is obviously a little bit different. Was something that you thought, I mean, this was like, oh, this is a really big challenge to to essentially make Mynaric a successful company, that a lot is going to be placed on your shoulders to make that happen.
We have a great team, so I can't take full credit for this. The expertise in laser comm is well embedded within the company, over a decade's worth of experience with the team that was already in place. The value I bring is how to bring products and services into market and really establish a world-class team. Most of my roles have had an international remit anyway, so having the opportunity to work with my colleagues from all around the world, situated in Germany and in the United States, was very exciting. And lasercom, as I mentioned, I'm a technology, aerospace engineer. I'm a technologist at heart, so I'd kept an eye on it, and I wanted to make sure it was the right time to introduce this product into the market. And I just felt like now was the right time, with the adoption by the US government and some of the commercial constellations of this enabling technology. And so all things just seemed to align very well. And so I'd said, let's do it. Let's take a leap and jump into lasercom. No RF, well, let's learn lasercom very quickly.
And I'm not an engineer, I have to confess. How is sort of the learning curve of learning lasercom been?
Well, it's you have to kind of go back to your days of physics at school and learn about how lasers communication links are established, and what's a telescope and mirrors, and how all the lasers are bouncing between this to kind of establish a link with the other sort of laser terminal. And then, in the RF world, we talk about modems as, the data element. And in the laser world, we talk about, transceivers. So it's just, once you start looking at the building blocks in an architecture form, you can piece it together when you know radio frequency communications. But laser just adds, another element of throughput. So it's been okay. I have a great CTO who's always very happy to break it down very simple terms, and so I can then communicate those on to our customers.
I think I would need it at the stage beyond very simple, whatever the stage was beyond that. If we, I mean, you've had some interesting announcements this year, just recently, sort of an increase of 2,000 units per year, talk of an IPO, some interesting collaborations with the likes of SpaceLinks. Are things actually going maybe sort of slightly ahead of schedule right now of where you thought the company might be? And talk to us a little bit about some of these sort of, I guess, sort of key events over the recent months.
Sure. We wanted to, as a company and as a management team, really focus our efforts on the market segments that our products can serve, which is space, air, and ground. And pardon the pun, but we're laser focused on these segments. And in the space segment, we have LEO based products. And what was really interesting is as we talked about our products and the capabilities and our know-how, when we were approached by folks in the U.S. government or folks from SpaceLink, for example, who are deploying a data relay system, but in MEO, they looked at our capabilities, and Dave Bettinger over there and I had known each other for several years. We looked at how we can actually transfer our knowledge from Leo into Mio, to different environment. And so you can say we got ahead in terms of our roadmap schedule, but it's something that we can certainly accommodate and do. So we're in it. Mynaric is very focused on the larger volume production at a price point that customers, whether it's an operator, commercial or government, can really introduce into their network infrastructure, right? In the old days, lasercom was just too expensive, and that's why the proliferation has not occurred as quickly as can, because the technology is known. So yes, we are ahead. We have opened 2 production facilities. So the second one, just you saw the announcement, got opened outside of Munich, and the capability at this facility is to produce about 2,000 terminals annually. Now you need the machinery, and you need the 3 different shifts, but that's the volume capability in that facility. So we can do our OISL terminals, or we can do our airborne terminals and work on our ground product. But this is where a commercial entity like ourselves, reasonable size, we're just over 200 people, can be more agile and can really make those investments in the right places to get this capability and this technology into the satellite market.
And why? I mean, we jokes about, I jokes about not being particularly much of an engineer, but why is laser comms so exciting for this industry? For people watching this this conversation who maybe don't know a lot about Mynaric and even laser comms, why do you think this is like a really exciting thing for this market?
It's exciting for us space junkies, right? In the satellite world, those telecom guys in the fiber world are like, okay, yawn. We do that all the time. But for us here in the satellite world, it really does afford the higher throughput capability, right? And it gives you that security for various use cases, specifically government applications. But if you think about the radio frequency spectrum, it's a scarce capacity out there, and it requires a lot of licensing, etc., depending on the applications you want to serve, the regions you want to serve. So I look at laser as just nothing more than enabling technology that really gives you that extra edge. There's a lot of remote sensing, Earth observation type constellations out there, smaller satellites that are gathering all this data, whatever type of pictures and whatever resolution they're taking. But to download all that back to the ground over RF could take a really long time. And at the same time, the amount of ground infrastructure a LEO constellation needs is significant. So the CapEx and the OpEx is quite high. Laser comes in and says, gives you the ability to move the data between the spacecraft in a plane or across a plane. So you can have fewer ground stations as an operator and download the data you need it wherever you need it very quickly. And in our world, we're not just looking at the nodes being space, air, and ground. Our goal is to connect these nodes into an architecture. So in the world of in-flight communications, for example, all the LEO constellations are targeting, my friends over there in the in-flight connectivity world. But if you look at laser in the future, you can put laser terminals on anything that moves. We've got the products, whether it's a UAV or it's a mobility vehicle or commercial aircraft. And now, if you think about it, you can connect it to lower Earth orbit equipped systems. So your cost per bit, Mark, remember that whole value proposition of cost per bit goes down if you go to KA? Well, it just goes down significantly. I don't recall how many zeros it goes down, but it goes down significantly when you go to laser. So that's the value prop.
So, it's fascinating stuff. I mean, in terms of actual, I suppose, I always ask this question when there's new technologies, market acceptance, and when we're going to see lots of these terminals in the market. I know that, the signs are encouraging, but tell us, maybe a little bit about the Not just the deal flow, but also the take up of it as well.
Yes. So it is, there's a lot of activity in North America. So you've got on the government side, you've got DARPA that is doing various missions. We are part of that program, the Blackjack program, and so this is again capabilities on other missions, but laser becomes a piece of it. Space Development Agency is actually deploying, their Tranche 0 constellation that will be incorporating laser communications onto their 20 spacecraft. And this is a Tranche 0, but the plan is to have Tranche 1, Tranche 2, and beyond. And all of these constellations have been outlined with both laser and RF comms. So that's sort of on the government side. You can immediately see the value from a security standpoint of moving data around. On the commercial side, Telesat has announced they will be incorporating laser communications. Starlink has, I believe, experimented with a few satellites with their lasercom product. So the traction is get the products out there, get the technology proven, and then deploy. As more lasercom terminals are deployed in space and then in aircraft and back onto the ground, you now have a network infrastructure that really can, transfer large amounts of data in a very secure manner.
And what is sort of the timeline for all of this?
So I believe the DARPA program, the Blackjack program, is launching beginning of next year. And then I believe the SDA Tranche 0 program is also 2021, late 2021, 2022 as well. It'll continue. The Telesat program, I think you would know better. You've just spoken to the folks over there, but I believe that's also in the 2023 timeframe. So I believe the next 3 to 4 years are very critical. And then my friends over at SpaceLink are also very ambitious in trying to get the data relay service launched for MEO. And the plan there is to deploy, lasercom terminals in the MEO orbits, but also then to communicate with lasercom terminals in a LEO infrastructure. And the LEO customers for us can be, like I said, an Earth observation service, whether it's SAR or something else. And it could also be a communications constellation that just wants to reduce capex and have on the ground, and then have lasercom terminals on the air.
And what do you sort of envision the sort of the balance or the blend between sort of government business and commercial business?
Interesting. If you'd asked me that question about 6 months ago, I'd say heavy on the government side, and lately it's sort of balancing out. So it's actually a blessing, and I'm sure our shareholders are very pleased to see sort of the balance between commercial and government customers. And we're also, as I mentioned, very happy we're not just focused on space. We have air capabilities and ground capabilities. And more recently, I've seen a lot of requests for proposals on RFIs as well, for mobility platforms, whether it's UAVs, certain type of aircraft, government sector, and on a global basis, Mark. It's not just focused in the United States. It's in Europe. We're bidding on a component of the FCAS program, the Future Combat Aircraft Systems program. So that's very exciting. In the Middle East, there are programs that require secure connectivity on UAVs. In the United States, there's plenty different force, whether it's the Army or it's a Marine Corps. A lot of opportunities there.
Excellent. So in 12 months' time, if we're doing another Thursday morning conversation, and where would you hope that the company would be positioned? I mean, you've had a busy start to the year, or even busy last 12 months, quite a few fairly significant announcements, but where would you hope to be, say, in 12 months' time?
We would have flown terminals in space. We would have flown terminals in air, deployed. We're one of the few companies that have optical ground terminals. So, it's sort of the chicken and egg thing. Should we deploy the ground terminals in partnership with a ground operator? So we would have had experience in the field with our terminals, and hopefully a nice backlog of more. And the next roadmap challenge for us, as I mentioned, our products are in these 3 markets, is to ensure that all the nodes are connected. And so when a service provider comes to us and really has a real interesting service play, we have the right products that fit into that service play.
So definitely a busy year ahead, I would
Indeed, indeed, indeed. Definitely we'll see more hours on an airplane or flying around, which is, a second home for me. I'm quite happy with that.
I still hope to get on an aeroplane. I haven't been on an aeroplane for almost 2 years.
You mentioned, Mark, it's actually the safest place. It's, for me, I think I've been on more flights than in supermarkets in the last 18 months. So I'm happier being on an airplane than going to a supermarket.
To be honest, I haven't been in either. But
yeah.
Now, as you know, with these Thursday morning conversations, we always like to end on a fun question. So we've talked about Mynaric, and again, I'd like to congratulate you and your team. It's a super exciting company, hence why you're one of our 10 hottest companies in satellite this year. But one of the questions I always traditionally ask people on these hottest conversations is to name me a movie, name me a drama they've been watching that they've really enjoyed and stuff, particularly obviously during lockdown, or whether who knows, maybe you've been watching something on planes and stuff like that. But is there something you've really enjoyed watching, or something that you would recommend to our audience?
So I've got a very eclectic taste in what I've been watching, but the one thing they have in common is there are many seasons of it. So I've been binge watching period dramas. So
Really?
I've been, I've done the entire Viking series. I've done the whole Lost Kingdom. I've rewatched, all of Downton Abbey. So this is kind of the whole period dramas. And then about 18 months ago, right, the start of lockdown period, I sort of accidentally discovered Korean dramas, Mark.
Really?
Yes. And now I feel like I can go to South Korea and have a conversation, because I turn off subtitles and I try to start, understanding some of the language. I have an ear for languages, but I've been watching Korean dramas. I highly recommend them. They're very interesting. There's a cultural, specifically the period dramas. You get to learn about the Joseon era that I never learned about in school. And so I feel like I pick up historical elements, fictional or otherwise, from some of these dramas. And that's what I've been doing. I download them onto my phone, and I will sign up for internet connectivity. So my friends in the IFC world, do not worry. I do pay for that service. But I download many dramas onto my own device, and that's what I do. So recommend period dramas and Korean dramas recently.
Fantastic. I'll definitely follow up with you on that. I've watched all of Downton Abbey. I'm not sure I'd necessarily want to go through all of it again, but I did watch it. I did go through it all the time. I enjoyed it, but it was good. But, well, Tina, it's been an absolute pleasure to catch up with you. Really enjoyed talking with you today. And as I said, we want to congratulate you and Mynaric. It really is Lasercom is often, it sounds a bit sort of science fiction. It's a very exciting company. It's, as you said, it's looking to do something very different in this market. So I wish you and all of your team the best of luck over the next year. There's a good reason why it was voted one of the 10 hottest companies in satellite, because it is we think it's a really hot company. So again, we wish you all the best, and we look forward to catching up with you soon.
Well, thank you so much. I've been looking forward to joining you on these chats. I've watched most of them, and Mynaric is a very exciting place to be, and we're hiring, so come join us.
Okay, all the best. Thank you very much, Tina.
Thanks very much.